guys, Andy Sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and I already filmed this video. The file corrupted before I could edit it, so I'm going to be filming it again. Here we are. This is my November wrap-up. In my original filming of this, I was dressed up like Tinsel the Elf. I didn't feel like putting it back on, so here we are. I do also want to fair warn that any animal sounds, anything in the background, so on and so forth. I live in a zoo. I have no control over those things. Y'all should know the drill by now. So let's get this show on the road, and I am going to give you my November wrap-up. Here are the stats. In November, I read 54 books. I read 6,156 pages. I listened to 397 hours and 45 minutes, which is the equivalent of about 16 days. Of those books, 37 of them were audio, 14 of them were ebooks, 3 of them were physical books, 1 of them was a graphic novel. Those books were 33 young adult books, 20 adult books, 1 middle grade book, and my average rating for those books was a 3.8. The authors of those books, diversity-wise, were 28 cisgendered authors, 24 white authors, 3 disabled authors, 11 queer authors, 7 non-binary authors, 9 people of color, 5 neurodiverse, and 7 debut authors. I do also want to note that I am, once again, not counting repeat authors, so if I'm reading a series such as Gossip Girl, which I read this past month, I only counted Cicely, the author, 1 time instead of 14 times, because otherwise it skews my data in a way that I don't really like. Personal preference. Of the books that I read, here is a breakdown of the genres. We have 10 fantasy, 6 books with LGBTQ main characters, 3 sci-fi, 4 thrillers, 11 horror, 15 contemporary, which is odd for me, 1 historical, 7 retellings, 1 romance, and 1 biography. Now for, the best part of this wrap-up, we're going to talk about my top 5 books of the month and then also the worst book of the month. I will say, now that I have also written down the best and worst books of the year, gone ahead and done that, I have changed what my worst book of the month was. Let's get started on our top 5 though. First, we have Gilded by Marissa Meyer. This is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. Stiltskin? I have a really hard time saying that word. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the fact that Marissa Meyer took some of the core elements of the story without it feeling like the same story, just kind of embellished upon. It was a new story. She did a really good job of that with the Cinder series. What are those books called? The something Chronicle? I don't know. The Cinder Chronicles? No, I don't know. Anyway, with those, she did a fantastic job with those. The Lunar Chronicles, that's what they're called. Anyway, and I think that she has done equally a good job with Gilded. I really like the way that Marissa Meyer takes on fairy tales and really changes them up to fit a different storyline entirely, and this was no exception. I really liked the way that this was an entirely different realm, and the way magic worked was different, and the way that the whole spinning gold situation, that was different as well, and I enjoyed all of that a lot. Then we have My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I read a lot of Grady Hendrix in the last month or two, and he is a horror author that I just deeply enjoy. I like the way that he writes his femme characters. I like that his books are both fun and scary at the same time, and My Best Friend's Exorcism was no exception to that. In this book, we follow, 2 best friends, as one of them is definitely probably possessed by a demon, and that whole situation unfolding was something like we couldn't put down, but it was still really incredible. I liked the 80s references and even the physical paperback, because I had a copy of the physical paperback as well. It's not mine, it's Bella's. It looks like an 80s VHS tape. And I just think that that was really clever, and I think that Grady Hendrix does a really good job of doing really niche content. So like horror store is set in an IKEA-esque store, and that was done really well. Southern Guide to Vampire Killing, or whatever that book was called, is set in a really specific era as well, and I thought that that was done well. And this is set in the 80s, My Best Friend's Exorcism, and it pulls on these really important parts of that era without being overwhelming to someone who maybe didn't grow up in the era. Then we have You'd Be Home by Now by Kathleen Glasgow. This is a contemporary, but it is really specifically a favorite because of my own personal experiences, and so it may not be a favorite for everybody else. You'd Be Home by Now is about a sister who was in a car accident with her brother who was in the backseat overdosing on heroin. She is the little sister, but has this strange kind of feeling of needing to take care of him and make excuses for him and believing in the best for him. Without getting into too much detail about it, because it's not fully my story to tell, I am the little sister of an addict, and while my brother is 10 years older than me, we would not have ever been to the same high school. I do have that experience of wanting to take ownership for a sibling and protect them from themselves, essentially, but also from parents and so on and so forth. So I have that experience, and I really enjoyed this book because of that, and I felt like it talked about addiction in a way that was really raw and showed many sides of it, but it also didn't vilify it. And I think that it's very hard to talk about the negative aspects of addiction in a fictional book without accidentally making them villains, and I think that this did a good job of not doing that. Then for my arcs, I have 2 arcs. I did not write down the authors, so I am hoping that editing me will put the author name somewhere. We have One for All, which is a gender-bent Three Musketeers retelling. In the story, we follow Tanya, who has POTS. It was not recognized as POTS at the time, but it's POTS and POTS. I can't say the words that stands for, but they think that I have it, and it's kind of an issue where the heart and the brain, the blood pressure, they don't communicate correctly, and sometimes you just pass out. I have that problem. And the way that this book handled Tanya's disability felt so like coming home, because it was things that I personally had experienced. Tanya is the daughter of a Three Musketeer, and her father is killed on his way somewhere else, and she is kind of determined to not become this perfect wife or whatever, but to be what her father was, and to change history, and to find out what happened to him, and that kind of thing. That's the gist of the story. But I really, really liked the disability representation in this book. It shows both sides of the way that people who are disabled, especially in a way that causes you to pass out at random, and some days are definitely better than others, it shows the differing ways in which people treat us. And some people are really supportive and great about it, and other people are like, well, you were able to do this the other day, why can't you do it now? That kind of mentality, which is really difficult. And I just thought that the way that it was handled was well done. The only thing that I will criticize about this realistically is the pacing was weird, but also a lot of French is used in it, and it is not translated appropriately. I studied French growing up, so it was fine for me, but I think for other readers it might be a little bit difficult. It is sometimes translated, it's just not always translated. Then we have The Bone-Shard Emperor. This is a sequel to The Bone-Shard Daughter. I did reread The Bone-Shard Daughter this month in order to read The Bone-Shard Emperor, and I will say the first time I read it, I did not really understand what was going on, and I was like, the vibes are good, so I like this book. Upon second time reading it, I enjoyed it much more. I found it was much more understandable, and it was more enjoyable. This was kind of how I felt about Gideon the Ninth as well. It's kind of better on the second read. It is the sequel. The Bone-Shard Emperor is a fantastic continuation of the story. It left things open-ended enough for the third book, but it kept things really, like, drew in all of the ties from the first book and kind of threw in all of these different political layers that made it a really, really enjoyable high fantasy kind of book with some new concepts that I feel like we didn't get a lot of, or we don't get a lot of in fantasy anymore. So we mostly just get the same recycled concepts over and over again, and this actually felt like something new, and I appreciated that a lot. For the worst book of the month, it is once again a book that I was really anticipating. I will say though, my expectations were low. They were very low. I did get this as an ARC. It does not come out until later this month. I am talking about the Excalibur Curse by Kiersten White. Now, the Guinevere Deception was one of my favorite books, and the second book was good, but not as good as the first one. The Excalibur Curse was not a good book. First off, our main character, Guinevere, she left, and we replaced her with someone new. And this person is whiny and annoying the whole time. The whole time she's whiny and annoying. there is this conversation also about like sometimes doing the right thing is not always the morally good thing. It wasn't handled that well. There was only one character I cared about, Fina. She was hilarious and she deserves all the rights. And the reason that this book irritated me so much, aside from at some point it feeling like, oh, okay, this is a great continuation from the second book. Oh, did we forget what, oh, we forgot what the book was about. Alright, this is a new plot now. Okay. There was all of this lead up to finding out who Guinevere actually was, and once we found that information out, it was just like, okay. And then Guinevere spent the rest of the book moping about and being fucking useless because of what she found out. Additionally, you're queer-baited. I'm telling you now, if you were reading those books and wondering, I wonder if I'm being queer-baited, you're being queer-baited. You're being queer-baited. In the end, at the very end of the book, she essentially says, I've figured out the answers to everything else, but love is something I'll figure out later on. Fuck you. Fuck you. If you were just gonna make her straight, just make her straight. If you were just gonna make her queer, make her queer. If you were gonna make them polyamorous, which I was rooting for, you should have done that. But instead, you took the cop-out and were like, who knows? Goodbye. Up for interpretation. And that's a fucking cop-out. And I think it's a cop-out because everybody knew that it was queer baiting. And that was really annoying to me. So that was my worst book of the year. So yeah, that's all of the books that I read this month. Well, a breakdown of the books that I read this month. Let me know if you've read any of the books already, or if you were really excited about the worst book and I just ruined it for you. Sorry in advance. You know, let me know in the comments down below. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and share. If you didn't like this video, please let me know in the comments down below how I can make it better for you. I will see you guys again on Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. I hope that you're having a great day and that your Clear Your Shit TBRs are going incredibly well for you. Don't forget to drink some water, take your meds, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.